The Commonwealth alleges that the defendant committed murder in the first degree on the following theories: murder with deliberate premeditation and/or murder with extreme atrocity or cruelty. Now, to prove the defendant guilty of any crime, the Commonwealth must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant was criminally responsible at the time the alleged crime was committed. The Commonwealth bears the burden of proving beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant committed the crime with which she's charged, and also that the defendant is criminally responsible for her conduct. The defendant has no burden to prove a lack of criminal responsibility. Criminal responsibility is a legal term. A person is not criminally responsible for her conduct if she has a mental disease or defect, and as a result of that mental disease or defect lacks the substantial capacity either to appreciate the criminality or the wrongfulness of her conduct, or to conform her conduct to the requirements of the law.
Thank you, Your Honor. Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Cora. She had just turned 5. She was sweet, silly, smart. She loved sparkly dresses and wearing bows in her hair. She loved princesses and baby dolls. She even tried to convince her preschool teachers at the beginning that her name was Sophia because she loved the Disney character Sophia the First so very much. Dawson. He was 3, a boy's boy. He was a bit rambunctious, but funny, full of energy. He loved trucks, construction trucks, fire trucks, and he spoke with a raspy little voice. Callan. Callan was just 8 months old. Always smiling, with chunky cheeks, a sweet little baby. We are here, ladies and gentlemen, because they are not. This was a woman who acted intentionally, rationally, and swiftly to accomplish a very specific goal: to kill. You'll see and hear evidence about all the things that she did that day, what she did in the days leading up to this incident, leading to the murders. You'll hear her spending time with her family and friends. You'll hear her appearing to be in good spirits and doing better for all intents and purposes. On that very day, you'll hear she interacted with people at the doctor's office. She came home and took care of the kids. She talked to people on the phone and via text message. The evidence will show you she was not psychotic that day. Throughout the evidence in this trial, you will learn about the defendant being the classic overachiever in school, in her personal life, in her nursing career. She was someone who liked to control every little detail of her life, of her family's life. In contrast to pictures you'll see of the doting mother, the dedicated nurse, you'll also see a side of Lindsay Clancy that's different. Somebody extremely controlling, meticulous, and manipulative. The days were laid out with specificity. Strict schedules were expected to be maintained. Food was planned carefully. Sleep was scheduled to the minute. And in the time after Callan was born, her last baby, the family had to adjust. And by all sources that I expect you're going to hear at that trial, that summer was great. But after Patrick had finished his paternity leave and was back to work full time, when she no longer had a nanny to watch the baby, do laundry, tidy up the house, follow her schedule, when she was responsible for it all, it was hard. It was hard for her to maintain that control. It was hard for her to bond with her kids. And in efforts to maintain control, she withheld information from her husband, from her doctors. She reported serious symptoms that were inconsistent with her daily activities, you'll hear. And ultimately, on January 24th, 2023, the defendant made a calculated decision. This was a woman who no longer liked the life she thought she wanted. It was getting harder and harder to control. And when she saw the opportunity to escape, she made the selfish choice to take it, and to take Cora, Dawson, and Callan first before attempting to take her own life. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a public debate about women's mental health and how the medical system treats women. This case is about this defendant, Lindsay Clancy. There is no dispute that she was dealing with mental health issues during this time period prior to the murders. There'll be medical records, medical doctors, mental health professionals that will talk about treatment, prescriptions, hospital visits. All that's going to be before you. The evidence will show that this defendant had a means and access to mental health that most people don't. And she chose to deal with her mental health issues in the worst way. She chose to manipulate her providers, seek out the quick and easy fix when she was feeling depressed and anxious. And when she didn't get what she expected, she chose an alternate route. She sought a different doctor. She changed medications after days. She disengaged from treatment when she didn't like the plan. After only 4 months in treatment, she made a choice, a deliberate and intentional decision that she did not want to try anymore. And because no one could take care of her kids the way she wanted them to, she had to take them with her. Despite all the precision that she exhibited that day, you'll hear, the timing of it all, the swiftness of the killings, overcoming the interruption of Patrick's phone call, what she did not anticipate was that she would not be able to complete the act by killing herself. Ladies and gentlemen, people with mental illness commit crimes every day and are responsible for them. The fact that someone may suffer or have a mental illness, a mental disease or defect, is not the end of the inquiry when it comes to guilt or innocence. It is whether a person can appreciate the wrongfulness or criminality of the conduct and conform their conduct to the law. Do they know what they were doing, and can they control their actions? The evidence in this case will prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this defendant coldly and efficiently executed first Dawson, then Cora, and finally Callan. One by one, she strangled the life out of each one of them. She did so with no hesitation, with deliberate premeditation, and extreme atrocity and cruelty. She is criminally responsible for the murders because the evidence will prove to you that she knew exactly what she was doing. She drew her husband out of the house, their father, so that she had the opportunity and the time to carry out these murders. She maintained the ability to control her conduct, conform her conduct, when she attempted to kill herself to escape the consequences. At the conclusion of this case, we're going to come back and we're going to ask that you return guilty of the murders of Cora Clancy, Dawson Clancy, and Callan Clancy, because the defendant committed those crimes.
She places herself on her country, which country you are. You owe allegiance to nothing but your oath, your consideration, and your time. Your common sense. You bring your life experience to this trial. Not a referendum on women's having babies and having postpartum psychosis, postpartum depression, but it sure as hell is. Because you're going to hear, consistent with what His Honor told you, one of the things that you don't do, which is taboo, is if you have somebody that's bipolar, you don't put them on an antidepressant, you don't put them on Zoloft, you don't put them on what's called an SSRI, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. It messes with your brain. You don't do that, but it was done in this case. The reason that Lindsay went to the doctors was in September 2022. July and August, of 2022. They were very happy. Lovely little family. September, things went sideways. And she looked for, and you heard the government saying, and remember what they say in their opening, and remember that when they prepare a case, and remember how they can point at different aspects of a case to show guilt, that show that somebody's conniving. In this case, how many times we heard she faked her suicide. Faked the suicide. This here you'll see is sleep aids. See this here, deep sleep pillow spray. She couldn't sleep. She couldn't sleep for months.
During those months, when you're going to the beach and out on the boat and visiting with friends, were there any signs of anxiety in the defendant during those months?
I would say starting in September, yes, but in the previous months, not so much.
When had she been scheduled to go back to work?
I don't remember the exact date, but I think it was October.
Okay. So again, it was that pattern of as it became closer in time to go back to work,
Yeah.
she started to struggle?
Yeah.
During the times when she would get anxious, when it was time to go back to work and she would start being anxious, did you ever have any difficulty understanding her when she spoke?
No.
And did she ever exhibit any behavior that made you concerned enough to call a doctor or want to commit her?
No.
When she was showing this anxiety, what were you seeing in her behavior?
Just a lot of stress. Dosage of the Ativan, so that aligns with
But the question was, were you aware that only 6 pills were taken out of this prescription?
No, but I think the context is important.
Okay. Were you aware that there was a prescription for buspirone or Buspar filled on October 26, 2022, in which only 2 pills were taken out of the 30 that were prescribed?
I found out about the Buspar later, and I didn't know about the number of pills.
Was your sister's in the photo with her?
That's one of my sisters and my sister-in-law.
Okay. And have they coordinated outfits for the day? The shirts?
Yeah, I think my sister did.
What was Lindsay's demeanor that day?
She was in rough shape.
Rough shape?
Yeah.
How so?
She wasn't talking much. She had low energy. She was really depressed. I just remember when she showed up, my sister-in-law gave her a big hug.
Okay. And do you recall how she was physically after starting the Seroquel?
Awful.
How so?
That was really where her big spiral started. She started to lose a lot of weight, and she became very depressed, and she was having a really hard time.
And did she describe to you some thoughts or feelings that she was having at that time?
Yeah, she started to say she was suicidal.
And was that in December of 2022?
I think so, yeah.
Were you concerned for the kids' safety at that time?
No, I wasn't.
And why not?
Because she wasn't showing any intention of harming the kids.
And she told you she didn't have a plan, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, directing your attention to December 15th, 2022, did Lindsay go to Mass General Hospital to the emergency department that day?
Yeah.
Okay. And why was that?
I remember the reasoning being she told her dad that she wanted to commit suicide, and then she said to me, I told my dad I want to die, and it didn't bother me at all.
And as a result of those statements, you brought her, or did she bring herself to Mass General?
I think I brought her that time.
And at Mass General, she saw medical staff, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And did they recommend to her some type of admission to McLean Hospital?
I remember there was one doctor who was in favor of that, and there were two others who were more in favor of a day program.
Okay. And did they give you information about a specific day program?
Yeah, it was Women and Infants in Providence.
And at that time, when Lindsay was saying that she was suicidal, was she asked if she had a plan?
By the doctors.
Or by you?
I was always checking in with her, and she never told me that she had a plan. I'm not sure what the doctors asked her.
Okay. And after being at Mass General on December 15th, did she go to Women and Infants Hospital in Rhode Island to attempt to get into their postpartum program?
She was already in. She went in as scheduled.
Okay. And but she didn't remain in, correct? She was just there for a day?
Correct.
Okay. And did she go by herself? Did you go with her?
I dropped her off, and then I took Dawson skiing.
Okay. And at some point in time, did Lindsay reach out to you to say she wasn't staying at the program and to come pick her up?
She actually said that the providers at that program suggested to her that she call me and have her come get picked up, and then that I should go in and meet with the providers.
Okay. And then after you picked her up, she was no longer in the program at that point, correct? At Rhode Island Women and Children's, right?
Well, we discussed it with the doctors, and their recommendation was that the program wasn't right for her.
Were there any insurance issues in terms of insurance refusing to pay for her stay at McLean Hospital?
We didn't really get to that point.
You weren't advised by the social worker or any staff there that there were any issues with your insurance, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct, but I wouldn't have cared either.
Would you have just paid for it if needed?
I would have paid anything. Yeah.
Restaurant?
It's like a family restaurant with games.
And how was the defendant's demeanor at the restaurant?
It was good. I was hopeful.
Why were you hopeful?
Because she seemed much...
While the defendant was home with the children?
Yeah.
And about how long were you gone?
About 2 hours.
Were there any issues or problems that you were aware of while you were gone?
No. She encouraged me to go. She said, "You've just been inside